I'm back. I know it's been about a year. I'm trying to make more regular videos now. Today I'm gonna start with a review for the Unearthed Arcana Artificer, and I'm gonna follow this up in 1 or 2 days with a character build involving the Artificer. First of all though, the review. I'm gonna go through all of the features and give you my individual opinions on the features, and then I'm gonna give you like my overall opinions on the class and the archetypes. First of all, let's start off with saying that the Artificer gets its saving throw proficiencies in Intelligence, which is one of the bad ones, and Constitution, which is one of the good ones, as per every class. Constitution is definitely a good one for a spellcaster, because that means you have your good save for this concentration checks. You get proficiency in simple weapons, as well as 2 types of crossbows. That means you can't really use a good melee weapon. Of course, with this being an intelligence-based spellcaster, I would assume it makes sense to play this as a high elf, where you get your elf weapon training, which might actually offset this a bit, but overall, I'm not a big fan of the proficiencies for this class. You also get proficiency in Thieves' Tools, which is really nice to maybe take the role of a rogue if you don't have one in your party, at least for disarming traps and opening doors kind of deal. And let's get into the class features. First of all, we got Magical Tinkering, which is kind of like the gnome racial feat from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, where you can actually make some useful small devices, but nothing really game-breaking or hugely useful. It's definitely a nice feature to have, and it's gonna come in handy every now and again, so it's definitely great to show what the Artificer does, but it's nothing really crazy. At level 2, you get to infuse an item, or actually, you get to infuse 2 items. There's some really nice infusions there. The feature in general is kind of like the core of the class. You do also get spellcasting, which actually I haven't shown on this graphic. Those 2 features are basically the main thing that you do, and I think that without infusions, this class basically doesn't do anything. The individual infusions we're gonna go to next after I'm done with all the features, but in general I think this is a very interesting feature. We got the Artificer specializations, which are the subclass of the Artificer. We're gonna go into those at the very end. At 3rd level, you get expertise in all the tools that you're proficient with. Now, it's important to note that this class does get Thieves' Tools proficiency, so you actually have expertise in Thieves' Tools automatically. You get your ability score improvements at the regular levels, as almost all classes besides Fighter do. At 5th level, you get Arcane Armament, which is just extra attack, except that the weapon has to be magical, which with Infused Item is kind of a given, although sadly you don't have martial weapon proficiencies. At 10th level, you get the right cantrip for the job, which just allows you to, once per short or long rest, replace one of your cantrips. I think if you pick your cantrips wisely, it's not really that hugely useful, but I can definitely see how, if you know you're going into a certain situation where a certain cantrip might be useful, and you're taking a short rest first, you might as well switch it out, so it's definitely better to have it than not to have it, but I don't think it's hugely influential. Spell storing item. At the very least, if you're using it yourself, the item that is, you're getting a bunch of extra spell castings without expending extra spell slots, so that's nice. You also don't have to have the spell prepared, so it's definitely a good feature to just improve your strength as a caster, or you can hand over the item to someone else, and for example allow your fighter to self-buff whenever he needs to, or something like that. At level 20, you get your capstone ability, the Soul of Artifice. This is a really strong ability. You can attune to 6 items, which completely breaks the regular limit in 5th edition. I don't think that in and of itself is that hugely strong, although it definitely is very strong. But you also get a +1 bonus to all saving throws per magic item you're currently attuned to, which, once you're level 20 in most campaigns, especially because you can infuse some of your own items, up to 5 at that time, you should be able to relatively reliably be 6. Getting a +6 to all saving throws is actually really good. Next, the infusions. And I put the replicate magic item at the end here because it's kind of like the biggest one. Boots of the Winding Path, they're nice. It's nothing major. It's definitely good for mobility in combat, and that's about it. Enhanced Defense is just a +1 bonus to AC on a suit of armor or shield. Increased to +2 at 12th level automatically, which is nice. Enhanced Weapon does the same thing but for weapons. Many-handed pouch is kind of like the end chest in Minecraft, where a lot of people can access the same storage container from different pouches in that case. Very useful thing for some trickery, but I don't think there's actually going to be that many situations where you really want it. It's definitely nice to maybe have some potions stored so that your entire party has access to them whenever they need to. You could also use it Maybe if the rogue wants to steal something, he can put it in the pouch and you can grab it out before it can potentially get caught as an extra safeguard. There's definitely some clever uses for this, but it's definitely not a strong item by any means. Radiant Weapon at level 8 is just a better version of the enhanced weapon. Once you reach level 12, of course, this bonus does not increase. The light is definitely nice. It allows you to basically hold a torch while holding a weapon. And otherwise, you can blind someone per short or long rest as a reaction when they attack you. It's definitely extra use for your reaction, and it can be really useful in combat. I think this is nice. I'm not sure how often you actually get a great use out of this, but it's definitely worth considering. Resistant Armor gives your armor resistance to a chosen damage type out of a list. I mean, there's not much to say about this. It's useful if you encounter a certain damage type a lot, and because you do no more infusions, then you can have items infused at a time. This definitely allows you to exchange your +1 or +2 armor maybe for armor of fire resistance, when you might be fighting a red dragon and you know that in advance. You have Returning Weapon, which is at the very least at level 1, and because whenever you level up you can switch out an infusion that you know. I would definitely pick Returning Weapon over Enhanced Weapon if I'm using a melee weapon, because it's just strictly better. Until you reach level 12, at which point Enhanced Weapon has a better enchantment bonus, and then the question is how often do you actually want to have thrown weapons? If you use daggers maybe, but otherwise, Replicate Magic Item allows you to replicate a huge list of magical items. You have to take the infusion for every item you want to replicate, so you can't just replicate all of the items. There is a huge list here. At level 1 it's mostly utility, like Wand of Magic Detection, Rope of Climbing, a Bag of Holding, you know, your typical useful items that aren't huge though. At level 12 you can actually get some really useful items. Gloves of Missile Snaring are nice. Boots of Striding and Springing might be nice depending on what you're trying to play. If you are playing a ranged character, which makes sense because you don't have any martial proficiencies besides crossbows, maybe consider some Braces of Archery. There's a lot of useful stuff. Slippers of Spider Climbing are nice to go up walls. Head of Disguise is very useful out of combat. There's definitely a lot of interesting stuff there. You also get Gloves of Ogre Power at 12th level, so that is another one where you can just buff yourself. If you want to be like a melee combatant, you instantly have that strength bonus there. At 16th level, you actually get the Belt of Hill Giant Strength for the kind of the same idea. You also get a bunch of other options. I generally think the Replicate Magic Item is where the bulk of this comes from, but it's definitely not all of them are very strong, but some of them are. Here we have the Artificer spell list, and as you can see, besides the cantrips, most of this is just utility spells. Now, some of those can definitely be used in combat, but most of the time it's just utility in and out of combat. There's some healing. The cantrips definitely involve a lot of damage as well, but if you want damaging spells, that's where the subclasses come in, and we also have this new spell, Arcane Weapon, which allows you to give a weapon 1d6 extra damage for up to 1 hour. It is a concentration based, which is important. And the way it is worded, it makes me think that you cannot hand the weapon off, which definitely makes it somewhat weaker, especially because you don't have any good weapon proficiencies without taking a compatible race or level dip. First subclass is the Alchemist. You get proficiency with Alchemist supplies and Herbalism kit. That's nice. You also, of course, get expertise with it right away. You get Alchemist spells. This is where you get a lot of the additional spells that you might want to use in combat. I definitely like how the subclasses definitely always add something to the spell list that you can make use of very effectively. At 3rd level you also get your Homunculus, which for the most part, interestingly enough, besides HP, scales with your proficiency, not with your class level, so that makes an even stronger case for making multi-class builds. It also doesn't seem that strong. The Alchemical Salves I think is the main use for it. Having the Acidic Spittle as an attack every turn is nice, but I'm not sure how strong that is on its own. And the salves only usable 3 times a day makes it relatively weak, I feel. Alchemical Mastery is just a nice bonus to your spells, and the ability to cast Lesser Restoration once per day. And Chemical Savant is some extra nice resistances and immunities, as well as being able to cast Greater Restoration. Overall, I think that the Alchemist in a lot of situations might be the weaker archetype, but talking about that, of course, we'll first look at the Artillerist before we can actually compare. The Artillerist. You get proficiency with Smith's tools and Woodcarver's tools. Once again, you also get expertise with those. You can use rods, staffs, and wands as spellcasting focuses as well. That's nice, because we definitely want to use wands later on. And of course, you also get for both subclasses actually a bonus for crafting. There is definitely a lot of elemental damaging spells in here. You get, instead of where the alchemist gets the homunculus, you get your arcane turret, which you can summon within 5 feet of you. It's a magical object that has crab-like legs, so it can actually move. It has an AC of 18, but is early on at the very least hard to hit. Hit points once again scale with the level. You can heal it with mending. It disappears after 10 minutes. You can only summon it once per day for free, and then you can resummon it using spell slots. That's one advantage of the homunculus, because you actually don't have to waste any resources to constantly have it. But you can actually choose between 3 types of turret every time you summon it. The flamethrower for more crowd control at a close range, the force ballista, which you can put very far away from the combat and still be very effective, and the defender, which, as you would imagine, has more defensive effect, and it can actually help you shield your allies and keep everyone alive. So I think the artillerist is a great source for battlefield control, and I think this is definitely also the role that you'd want to take as an artificer. At 6th level, you can produce a wand prototype, which you can use one prototype to recreate a cantrip, and the damage is improved by your intelligence modifier. This is mostly, of course, useful for that extra damage boost, but it also almost makes the right cantrip for the job ability even more redundant. And then at 14th level, you get Fortified Position, which once again allows your turret to be even more of a battlefield control type of deal. I honestly like the artillerist more, although I can definitely see the use of both subclasses. And there's overall the Artificer. The Artificer, I feel like, is very comparable to the Paladin or Ranger, because that's the same kind of spellcasting progression. The advantage of the Artificer is that you get cantrips. The disadvantage is that you don't get anything else. Like, the Paladin would get Smite, which is really strong. You do get infusions for your +1 or +2 bonus to your weapons, but that's not nearly as impactful, and the fact that you don't even get martial weapon proficiencies definitely makes you a lot weaker. And overall, I think that as a support class, this is fine. This is definitely great for NPCs. For PCs, it's okay, but don't expect to be the strongest character in the party. That's already it for this video. I'm gonna build a character using the Artificer. I'm gonna build a multi-class character with it in 1 or 2 days, and until then, let me know what you think of the format. I'm especially curious to know what you think about the graphics, because I know that on my last video a lot of people were watching on mobile, and I'm not sure how well readable the text is. If you know the Artificer, it is definitely completely redundant, because it's just the actual text from the Unearthed Arcana. But I wanted to put it anyways, because when I watch these types of videos where someone reviews the Unearthed Arcana and goes through it, I kind of like to have the ability to read the text myself, if I haven't already. And I will usually pull up the PDF anyways. Let me know what you think of that. Should I put less text? Should I put no text at all? And generally, of course, the way I structured the video, I don't have a lot of experience in doing this yet, and I definitely want to know what you think about that. Until then, if you enjoyed it, like the video. Again, leave constructive criticism in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this. And I still find a good way to end the video.